A colossal mountain holds a temple carved from its very heart. These mountain-carved complexes are not just caves, but breathtaking architectural feats, showcasing engineering skills that sometimes rival what we achieve today. Why did ancient peoples commit generations to such backbreaking work? And what profound secrets about our history are locked within that stone? By the end of this journey, you will understand the forgotten capabilities that allowed civilizations to shape mountains with astonishing precision. We will uncover how they planned these massive projects without blueprints, and what mysterious knowledge they might have possessed that we are only now rediscovering. What does it truly mean to build something meant to last for eternity? These are monuments born not from piling stone upon stone, but from the patient removal of everything that was not part of the final vision. To build a mountain-carved complex is to work in reverse, starting with a solid, unyielding mass and carving space, and form directly from it. This is architecture by subtraction. Across the globe, from the sun-scorched cliffs of Petra to the highlands of Ethiopia, where the churches of Lalibela descend into the earth, we find this same breathtaking principle at work. These are not structures built on a mountain, they are the mountain itself, transformed. Archaeologists like Dr. Anya Sharma describe this process as a form of symbiosis, a deep collaboration between human will and the natural world. The builders did not seek to conquer the stone, but to understand it, to harness its inherent strength and shape it for a new purpose. This reliance on in situ material, carving directly into the living rock, is the first defining characteristic of these sites. There are no quarried blocks to be transported, no mortar to bind separate pieces. The entire complex is a single, continuous piece of the earth, granting it a structural integrity that free-standing buildings could never achieve. This monolithic nature often served a dual purpose. For spiritual sites, it created a permanent, unshakable sanctuary, a direct connection to the earth believed to be sacred. For defensive strongholds, it produced fortifications that were virtually impregnable, their walls as thick as the mountain itself. So what does it truly mean to build in this way? Every strike of the hammer, every chip of removed rock was a permanent decision. There was no room for error, no option to dismantle and rebuild. This inverted approach to creation demanded a different kind of genius, one that could see the finished temple hidden within the raw cliff face and possess the unwavering confidence to set it free. The true marvel, then, lies not just in the grand facades we see today, but in the invisible process that created them. How did these ancient engineers plan such precise removals without causing a catastrophic collapse? The answer lies in a forgotten toolkit of mind and method, a sophisticated understanding of stone that we are only beginning to appreciate. Standing before a solid cliff with only a hammer and chisel feels like trying to empty an ocean with a cup. Yet these artisans did far more than that. They achieved smooth surfaces and perfect right angles that look as though they were cut by a machine, not by human hands swinging a simple metal tool. So how was such impossible precision accomplished? The answer lies not in the tools themselves, but in the profound knowledge of how to use them. Engineering historian Professor Liam Chen notes that the precision of these carvings implies a deep understanding of rock mechanics and stress points, knowledge we often associate with much later periods. These builders understood the stone's natural grain, its hidden faults, and the precise points where a small amount of force could yield a massive, controlled break. One widely theorized method is the point and groove technique. Artisans would first carve a series of closely spaced holes or grooves along the desired fracture line. Then, using wooden wedges soaked in water, they would exploit a simple principle of physics. As the wood expanded, it created immense directed pressure, cleanly splitting the rock exactly where they intended. In some cases, evidence suggests they may have used thermal methods, building fires against the rock face and then rapidly cooling the heated stone with water, causing it to fracture and become easier to work. At India's Ellora caves, the scale of removal is staggering. To create vast worship halls, workers had to extract thousands of tons of rock. This was not random digging. It was a systematic process of drilling, levering, and hauling out massive stone blocks, a logistical nightmare requiring immense manpower and flawless coordination. Imagine the orchestrated effort with teams of workers each performing a specific task, their rhythm echoing through the growing cavern. The process itself was a masterpiece of planning. Many complexes were carved from the top down. Artisans would begin at the cliff's peak, sculpting the elaborate roof, and then working their way steadily toward the floor. This ingenious approach eliminated the need for massive, unstable scaffolding. They were, in effect, always standing on the floor of their own creation, removing the mountain from above their heads. This method also provided a continuous check on their work, ensuring structural integrity with every inch they descended. How did they maintain perfect symmetry and alignment over such vast spaces without lasers or modern levels? They likely used simple yet brilliantly effective tools, plumb bobs for vertical lines, water-filled channels as level references, and meticulously knotted ropes for consistent measurement. Their eyes were their guides, calibrated by generations of passed-down knowledge. The true testament to their skill is not just that these spaces were created, but that they have endured for over 1,000 years. They planned for stability, leaving strategic pillars of untouched rock to support soaring ceilings and designing load-bearing arches within the solid stone itself. Each choice was permanent, a conversation with the mountain that required listening as much as it did carving. This deep, intuitive understanding of material and form hints at a hidden layer of planning, one governed by mathematical principles and celestial alignments that we are only just beginning to decode. The invisible blueprint for these structures existed long before the first chisel struck stone. It was a plan etched not on papyrus or clay, but in the minds of the architects, a perfect marriage of intuition and mathematical certainty. To walk through a complex like the Ajanta caves is to move through a world governed by geometry. The pillars are not merely supports, they are rhythmic intervals in a symphony of stone, spaced according to strict proportional rules. The chambers themselves often adhere to the golden ratio, a mathematical relationship found throughout nature, believed to create a sense of visual harmony and balance that resonates on a deeply human level. This was not arbitrary decoration. It was a conscious effort to build a microcosm of a divinely ordered universe. Researcher Dr. Elena Torres explains that the alignment of doorways and altars with solstice sunrises shows a fusion of engineering and astronomy. The entire structure was a celestial clock and a spiritual compass, anchoring the human world to the cycles of the cosmos. So how did they translate these complex mathematical ideas into solid rock? The tools were deceptively simple. A length of rope knotted at precise intervals could be used to create perfect triangles, the foundation of stable structures. A simple rod and a string acted as a giant compass, allowing for the layout of vast circular chambers and arched ceilings. Water, once again, was a crucial tool. By filling a long, narrow trench, they could create a perfectly level reference line, a still plane against which all other measurements could be calibrated. This numerical foundation was not just for beauty, it was integral to the structure's survival. precise angles distributed weight efficiently, while the repetitive harmony of proportional design meant that stress was channeled evenly throughout the mountain. The result is a space that feels both immense and intimately sacred, a testament to the power of number. What can these ancient blueprints teach us about the universal language of mathematics? They reveal that this language is not a modern invention, but a fundamental part of how humans perceive and shape their world, seeking order in the chaos of nature. This profound desire to build in harmony with the universe points toward a deeper question, one that moves beyond the how and into the compelling realm of why. What powerful beliefs could inspire a society to commit centuries of labor to such a monumental task? A mountain was far more than a mass of stone. It was a living bridge to the heavens, a sacred axis where the human world touched the divine. This profound belief is the silent force that drove societies to dedicate centuries to carving out their most important spaces. The drive to build into mountains was a spiritual impulse, a desire to create a sanctuary that was both of the earth and a gateway to something beyond it. In the Buddhist caves at Dunhuang, China, artisans did not just carve rooms, they created entire worlds of painted paradise on the cave walls, transforming the rock into a vessel for meditation and artistic devotion. It was an act of merging human aspiration with natural sanctity. Similarly, the breathtaking Kailasa temple at Ellora is not merely a building. It is a representation of Mount Kailash, the Himalayan abode of the god Shiva, literally hewn from a single hillside to bring a celestial concept down to earth. Anthropologist Dr. Ben Carter notes that these monumental projects were profound acts of devotion. They were often funded by rulers not just for spiritual merit, but to legitimize their power by demonstrating a connection to the cosmic order. The mountain itself became a symbol of unshakable authority and eternal presence. This spiritual motivation was often intertwined with practical needs for defense and community. The Nabateans at Petra carved elaborate tombs directly into their rose-red cliffs, creating a city of the eternal that was also a formidable, easily defended stronghold. Their final resting places were a declaration of identity, carved where no enemy could easily desecrate them. These complexes became powerful economic and cultural engines. A remote cave temple could blossom into a major pilgrimage center, drawing travelers, scholars, and traders from across continents. This influx of people created a vibrant exchange of ideas, art, and goods, turning a solitary place of worship into a thriving hub of civilization. So why did cultures across the globe, from India to Jordan to Ethiopia, independently arrive at this same monumental solution? It speaks to a universal human yearning for permanence and connection. To build with stone and mortar is to create something that may last for centuries, but to carve your temple, your tomb, your sanctuary directly from the heart of a mountain is to create something meant to last as long as the earth itself. This deep-seated desire for a legacy that could withstand the relentless passage of time raises a profound question. How have these stone dreams, born from such powerful belief, actually managed to survive the ravages of millennia? The resilience of these structures is written into the very stone underfoot. A corridor polished smooth by 1,000 years of wind and rain still stands, not by chance but by deliberate, brilliant design. Their longevity is a direct result of their construction. Being carved from a single, monolithic piece of the earth granted them a natural defense against forces that topple ordinary buildings. Earthquakes that would shatter masonry often pass harmlessly through these living rock complexes, their immense mass and unity allowing them to sway as one with the land itself. Structural engineer Maria Lopez explains that by building within the mountain, they leveraged its mass for protection, creating a stable thermal and structural environment. This was not just building, it was a form of geological integration. The choice of rock was the first critical decision. Builders sought out durable stone like dense sandstone, resilient granite, and solid basalt, materials capable of resisting the slow, persistent grind of erosion. Then they engineered for survival. Look at the sloping roofs and carefully carved channels at a site like Ellora. These are not merely decorative. They are sophisticated drainage systems designed to divert torrential monsoon rains away from delicate carvings and prevent water from seeping into cracks where freezing and thawing could cause the rock to fracture over time. In Cappadocia, Turkey, the underground cities represent a pinnacle of adaptive design. Here, entire communities carved multi-level cities deep into the soft volcanic rock. They included massive, hidden stone doors to seal off passages from intruders, and most ingeniously, a network of ventilation shafts that reached all the way to the surface. These shafts provided fresh air to thousands of people living below ground and maintained a stable, comfortable temperature year-round, allowing these subterranean metropolises to function for generations. This was sustainability engineered for the long term. Modern conservationists now work to protect these ancient marvels from new threats. The very footfalls of millions of admiring visitors can wear away stone floors, while the humidity from our breath can damage fragile ancient paintings. Teams use advanced monitoring and careful restoration to ensure these legacies endure for centuries to come. So what lessons in sustainability can we learn from these ancient masters? They understood how to work with their environment, not against it, using passive systems for climate control and selecting materials that were inherently durable. Their work challenges our modern notions of disposable construction. This enduring nature is not universal, however. The survival stories of these complexes vary dramatically across the globe, each site bearing unique scars and triumphs from its long conversation with history. The sheer scale of human ambition becomes clear when we travel from the sun-baked sands of Egypt to the cloud forests of Peru. In Egypt, the colossal statues of Pharaoh Ramses II at Abu Simbel guard the entrance to a temple carved deep into a cliff. This was more than a royal monument. It was a statement of divine power, engineered so that twice a year the rising sun would penetrate the inner sanctuary and illuminate the statues of the gods. The modern relocation of the entire complex to save it from a rising lake stands as a testament to its enduring value, a 20th century engineering marvel preserving an ancient one. Far to the north, along the turquoise coast of Turkey, the Lycian tombs defy gravity. Carved to resemble the wooden houses of the living, these ornate facades are perched on sheer cliff faces, a final resting place intended to lift the departed closer to the heavens. This was a culture that so seamlessly blended its architecture with the dramatic landscape that their tombs became a part of the mountain itself. Across the Atlantic, the ancient builders of Machu Picchu in Peru demonstrated a different kind of reverence for stone. Here, the Incas constructed their city not by carving inward, but by building outward, shaping structures around existing rock formations. They incorporated natural boulders into their walls and temples, creating a harmony between the built and the born, a settlement that seems to have grown organically from the mountain peak. As archaeologist Dr. Kenji Tanaka notes, each culture adapted these techniques to their environment, creating a rich tapestry of architectural styles. In the desert canyons of the American Southwest, the ancestral pueblones at Mesa Verde carved entire villages into high cliff alcoves. These were not tombs or temples, but thriving, multi-story apartment complexes for a community, ingeniously positioned for both defense and to capture the low winter sun for warmth. In the rose-red city of Petra, Jordan, the Nabateans carved intricate multi-story facades directly into the winding canyon walls, their sophistication announcing the wealth and artistry of a powerful trading empire. Meanwhile, back in India, the Kailasa temple at Ellora remains the world's largest monolithic structure, a complex so vast that it is literally a mountain turned inside out. How does geography influence such divergent designs? In arid regions, builders focused on water management and temperature control, carving deep into rock for coolness. In mountainous areas, they prioritized defense and stability, using the landscape as a natural fortress. This global panorama reveals not a single story, but countless variations on a shared human theme, a universal drive to create lasting meaning from the very bones of the earth. But this brilliant ingenuity did not emerge in a vacuum. It was forged in response to immense and very specific physical challenges, pushing the limits of what was possible with simple tools and sheer determination. Every strike of the chisel was a battle against the mountain's will. Teams of workers faced not just the immense task of removal, but a constant negotiation with the rock itself. A single misjudgment could turn a grand hall into a tomb, as an unstable ceiling gave way. The primary challenge was the sheer mass of material that had to be extracted and managed. At sites like the Ellora Caves, the excavation of thousands of tons of stone created a logistical nightmare. Workers had to painstakingly drill, lever, and haul out massive blocks, clearing the debris from deep within the growing caverns without the aid of wheeled carts or powered machinery. This required an army of laborers, which in turn created another hurdle: the need to house, feed, and organize this workforce for projects spanning generations. The scale of community commitment was staggering, a sustained effort that demanded meticulous resource management and a shared vision passed from parents to their children. The rock itself was an unpredictable adversary. As geologist Dr. Sarah Mitchell explains, these early engineers had to read the rock like a book, identifying hidden fault lines and seeking out the most solid strata to avoid catastrophic collapses. When they encountered impossibly hard stone, they devised clever methods to break it. Evidence suggests the use of thermal shock, where fires were built against the rock face and then rapidly cooled with water, causing the stone to fracture and become easier to work. During the carving process, they left temporary pillars and walls of untouched rock as natural supports, only removing them once the surrounding structure was complete and stable. This was a high-stakes balancing act, a slow, careful dance with the mountain's own strength. Deep within the carved interiors, two other critical challenges emerged: light and air. How do you illuminate a windowless chamber carved hundreds of feet into a cliff? And how do you ensure those working inside, or later worshipping there, could breathe easily? The solutions were brilliantly simple. They used polished metal mirrors to strategically reflect sunlight from the entrance deep into the caverns. For ventilation, they carved subtle shafts and channels that allowed fresh air to circulate, pulling stale air out and maintaining a breathable atmosphere. Water, both a necessity and a threat, was also masterfully controlled. At Ellora, we see complex water management systems, with channels and spouts carved directly into the rock to divert torrential monsoon rains away from delicate sculptures and prevent seepage that could weaken the stone over centuries. What does overcoming these immense physical and logistical hurdles reveal about human resilience? It speaks to a profound determination, an ability to mobilize entire societies around a vision so powerful it could justify centuries of backbreaking labor. This practical mastery of the earthly realm, however, was often paired with a celestial one, guiding the placement of every doorway and altar with a precision that suggests a deep connection to the skies above. A doorway carved into a mountain does more than mark an entrance, it can frame the cosmos itself. On the morning of an equinox, the rising sun might pour through that opening, casting a blade of light that travels across a dark interior to illuminate a single sacred statue. This was not a happy accident. It was the result of generations of meticulous observation, a celestial map etched in stone. Sites like the Sun Temple at Masror in India act with this precise choreography, where sunlight touches specific idols only on the solstices, turning the entire mountain into a giant astronomical clock. Historian Dr. Omar Farouk notes that the builders encoded cosmic cycles into stone, blending science with spirituality in a way that feels almost magical to us today. So how did they translate the slow dance of the heavens into such exact architectural precision? The methods were elegant in their simplicity. One of the most powerful tools was the casting of shadows. By observing how a fixed rod's shadow moved and lengthened over the course of a year, ancient astronomers could pinpoint the solstices and equinoxes with remarkable accuracy. They could then mark these key points on the ground, establishing the solar axes that would dictate the orientation of a temple's central corridor or main doorway. For stellar alignments, the process required even greater patience, mapping the position of specific stars or planets against the horizon over decades. This accumulated knowledge was then translated into the permanent language of architecture. We see echoes of this in even older sites, like the stone circles of Nabta Playa in the Sahara, where megaliths were arranged to align with the summer solstice sun and the brightest stars. This foundational knowledge of the skies, developed by desert astronomers thousands of years earlier, likely informed the grander mountain carvings that followed. The purpose of this celestial engineering was deeply practical as well as profoundly spiritual. For agricultural societies, these alignments served as a communal calendar, signaling the exact times for planting and harvest. For religious leaders, they created moments of high drama where the sun itself seemed to enact a divine ritual, validating their authority and connecting the community to the powers that governed their world. How did ancient peoples manage to build with such cosmic awareness? It speaks to a worldview where the earth and the heavens were inseparable parts of a single, interconnected whole. This deep, symbolic connection to the universe was not only carved into the grand alignments of these spaces, but into the very surfaces of the walls themselves, where art and belief merged in a breathtaking display of human expression. Step into a chamber where the walls themselves speak. Every inch of stone is alive with carved figures, their stories unfolding in a silent, perpetual dance. These intricate sculptures and murals are far more than decoration. They are a living library, a direct line to the minds and hearts of the people who created them. In the Ajanta caves, vast murals depict scenes from the Jataka tales, stories of the Buddha's past lives, offering a vibrant window into ancient clothing, customs, and spiritual ideals. Art conservator Dr. Lena Petrova observes that these artworks are time capsules, preserving pigments and artistic styles that would have otherwise been lost to history. The artists employed a range of sophisticated techniques to achieve this lasting legacy. Bas-relief carving allowed figures to emerge gracefully from the stone, while fresco painting involved applying pigments to freshly laid plaster, bonding the color directly into the wall for astonishing durability. Working in near-total darkness, how did they achieve such delicate detail? They used the clever interplay of reflected light. Polished metal mirrors would catch sunlight from the entrance or light from oil lamps, directing beams to illuminate specific sections of the ceiling or wall for the painters to work on. This painstaking process meant an artist might only complete a few square inches in a day, a testament to incredible patience and dedication. The symbols they chose were a language in themselves. A carved lotus flower was not just a plant, It represented purity and spiritual awakening, rising pristine from the mud. A fierce guardian figure at a doorway was more than a statue. It was a protective presence, warding off negative influences from the sacred space inside. Scenes of royal processions or bustling marketplaces served a dual purpose. They glorified a patron king, but they also documented the era's technology, from the design of chariots to the tools used in agriculture. What do these artistic choices tell us about the creator's values? They reveal a society deeply concerned with spirituality, yes, but also one that celebrated daily life, valued storytelling, and sought to leave a clear record of their world for future generations. This visual legacy deepens our connection to the past in a way that written records alone cannot. To appreciate the sheer volume of this artwork is to begin to grasp the immense logistical feat behind it all. It forces us to ask how a society could organize and sustain such a massive, multi-generational artistic endeavor, supporting not just the laborers, but the master artisans and their apprentices for century after century. The sheer ambition of these projects required a human engine of staggering scale. Think of the workforce not as a single group, but as a complex, living machine with thousands of moving parts. At a site like Petra, the air would have been thick with the sounds of this orchestrated effort, the rhythmic tapping of chisels from master sculptors working on delicate friezes, the grunts of laborers hauling heavy baskets of rubble, and the calls of overseers coordinating the next phase of excavation. This was not a chaotic mob. Archaeological evidence points to a highly structured society with specialized roles, from quarry masters who understood the rock's properties to artisans who transformed it into art, all supported by far-reaching trade networks that brought in essential goods. Economist Dr. Rahul Kapoor describes these projects as functioning like ancient corporations, with clear hierarchies and sophisticated systems for allocating food, water, and materials. The logistics of sustaining such an endeavor for generations are almost beyond comprehension. Just providing daily meals and fresh water for thousands of people housed in temporary settlements near the worksite was a monumental task in itself. This required a robust economic foundation, typically funded through royal patronage or the immense wealth generated by agricultural surplus and trade. A king or wealthy patron would finance the project to demonstrate their piety and power, while in return, the work provided stable employment and fostered a powerful sense of shared identity and purpose across the community. How did they manage the labor force itself? The nature of the workers varied greatly across cultures and eras. While some projects undoubtedly relied on compulsory labor, others employed skilled, paid artisans and voluntary devotees who contributed their work as a form of spiritual merit. This distinction is crucial. A master sculptor who dedicated his life to adorning a holy cave was likely driven by a different set of motivations than someone forced into hard labor. Maintaining morale and precision over decades required more than just oversight. It relied on a strong cultural narrative, a shared belief in the project's divine or historical importance that was passed from one generation to the next. This was a society investing in its own legacy, with each worker understanding their small role in a grand, centuries-long story. The social impacts were profound. These projects became hubs for skill development, where apprentices learned advanced techniques in stone carving, geometry, and project management, knowledge that would ripple out to benefit the wider civilization. They fostered incredible cultural cohesion, uniting people from different backgrounds under a single, awe-inspiring goal. This intricate web of human collaboration, this ancient marvel of organization, forces us to look closer at the physical means of execution. What specific tools and materials allowed this human machine to interact with the mountain so effectively? The sound of a bronze chisel striking granite is a soft, precise note in a symphony of labor. For every type of rock and every stage of the work, artisans selected their tools with the care of a surgeon choosing a scalpel. The rough work of removing vast quantities of stone began with heavy tools like picks and hammerstones used to pound and fracture the rock face. For the more controlled shaping, a pointed chisel was essential, its concentrated force allowing workers to define outlines and split stone along desired lines. As the form emerged from the mountain, the tools changed. Flat chisels and drove tools struck with wooden mallets took over, their broader edges perfect for smoothing surfaces and carving out fine details. In the rock-hewn churches of Lalibela, the distinct marks left by these different implements are like a fossilized record of the process, allowing archaeologists to trace the steps from raw cliff to finished sanctuary. Materials scientist Dr. Hannah Lee notes that the choice of tool was a marriage of necessity and innovation. While some cultures used readily available copper, others developed more durable bronze and iron alloys, creating edges that could withstand hours of daily use against unforgiving stone. But the tools themselves were only half the story. To reduce the punishing friction and prevent the metal from blunting too quickly, workers likely used auxiliary materials like water or plant-based lubricants, a simple yet effective solution that allowed for smoother, more precise carving. Maintaining a sharp edge on hundreds of tools was a constant, vital task. Dedicated artisans would have been responsible for the on-site sharpening and repair of these precious implements, their work ensuring that the primary carvers never lost their rhythm. The evolution of this toolkit is visible across the centuries. Earlier sites show the marks of simpler stone-on-stone techniques, while later complexes bear the evidence of hardened metal chisels capable of incising the most intricate patterns. What does the microscopic wear on a 2,000-year-old chisel tell us? It speaks of a profound, hands-on expertise, a tactile understanding of material that allowed the worker to feel the stone's resistance and adjust their technique accordingly. This intimate, physical dialogue with their materials produced more than just visual beauty. It created spaces where sound itself was carefully considered, setting the stage for an exploration of how these stone halls were engineered not just for the eye but for the ear. A whisper in one of these stone chambers can feel like a secret spoken directly into your ear, even from across a vast room. This was no accident of architecture. The builders of these complexes were not just shaping space for the eye, but for the ear as well, engineering sound itself to behave in specific, powerful ways. Deep within the hypogeum of Hal Saflieni in Malta, a subterranean complex carved from solid limestone, certain low frequencies resonate with an almost physical intensity. A single voice can produce a hum that fills the entire chamber, a phenomenon that acoustic archaeologist Dr. Felix Weber describes as tuning the very rock. He suggests these spaces were crafted like musical instruments, likely to deepen spiritual experiences or to aid in the precise transmission of oral traditions long before the written word. How did they achieve such control over something as invisible as sound? The answer is written in the curves of the walls and the arches of the ceilings. Smooth, curved surfaces reflect sound waves in a focused manner, allowing them to travel further without losing clarity. A domed ceiling can concentrate these reflections, creating a focal point where a speaker's voice is amplified naturally. Strategically placed niches and alcoves act as sound diffusers, breaking up echoes that would create a muddy, confusing noise and instead producing a clean, resonant reverberation that lasts just long enough to feel majestic without becoming indistinct. The purposes for this acoustic design were as varied as the cultures themselves. In a temple, Such properties could transform a chant or a recited hymn into an overwhelming sensory experience, making the human voice sound divinely powerful. In an assembly hall, it would allow a single leader to address a large crowd without shouting, their words carrying authority and clarity to every listener. We can picture the builders testing these effects during construction, using the simple tools they had. The sharp report of a hand clap would reveal the echo profile of a new chamber. The sustained note of a chant would help them understand how sound decayed over time, allowing them to subtly adjust the angles of a wall or the depth of a niche to perfect the auditory environment. How did they grasp the principles of wave propagation without the mathematics of modern physics? It was likely a knowledge born from deep observation and experimentation, passed down through generations of artisans who learned to listen to the mountain as intently as they carved it. This sophisticated manipulation of sound is yet another layer of their genius, a hidden technology that used the form of the stone to shape an invisible force. It prompts a fascinating question. How does this ancient, monolithic approach to building compare to the architectural philosophies that came after it, philosophies that chose to assemble rather than to carve? A Gothic cathedral reaches for the heavens, its stone ribs assembled block by painstaking block. A rock-cut temple, in contrast, descends into the earth, its form revealed by what was taken away. These are two opposing dreams of permanence, one built by addition, the other by subtraction. Architectural historian Dr. Isabel Morau describes this fundamental difference, noting that while medieval builders assembled, ancient carvers revealed, resulting in forms that are inseparable from their environment. This philosophical split creates a cascade of practical contrasts. The inherent stability of a monolithic complex, carved from a single piece of the earth, grants it a natural resistance to seismic forces that can topple even the most carefully constructed masonry walls. Its thermal mass acts as a natural climate battery, staying cool in blistering heat and retaining warmth during cold desert nights, all without any mechanical intervention. The construction process itself reveals a stark trade-off. Building a cathedral was a race against time, often spanning mere decades, a furious burst of communal effort. Carving a mountain was a slow, generational conversation with the earth, a project whose completion its original architects would never live to see. This difference in speed is mirrored in the issue of waste. A built structure generates constant debris, from quarrying to shaping to the inevitable offcuts. A rock-cut complex, however, produces only the initial debris of excavation, the material removed to create the void. In some cases, this very debris was repurposed, the extracted blocks used to build ancillary structures, creating a remarkably efficient, almost waste-free cycle. Consider the environmental footprints of the Parthenon in Greece and the city of Petra in Jordan. The Parthenon's marble was quarried miles away and hauled up a steep hill, a massive logistical feat requiring immense energy and resources. Petra, however, grew from the inside out, its grandest structures requiring no imported materials at all, their vibrant color a natural property of the native sandstone. This comparison raises a profound question for our own time. What can these ancient, subtractive methods teach us about sustainable building? They exemplify a deep-rooted principle of using local materials and working in harmony with the landscape, minimizing both resource extraction and long-term maintenance. The cultural shift toward freestanding monumentalism in later periods often moved away from this philosophy, favoring the imposing, human-made structure that dominated the skyline rather than the sacred space that honored the contours of the land. Yet the endurance of these mountain-carved sites, many standing strong after millennia with little need for repair, challenges our modern notions of disposable construction. Their lasting presence is a silent testament to a different kind of ambition, one that sought not to conquer nature but to collaborate with it. This very longevity, this sense of an eternal witness, has inevitably woven these stone marvels into the fabric of legend, blurring the line between human history and mythical origin. A legend whispered in the villages near Ellora speaks of a king's desperate prayer. In a single night, the story goes, celestial architects descended and carved the magnificent Kailasa temple from the mountain, completing a task meant for generations of mortal workers. This tale of divine intervention is not unique. Across the world, communities living in the shadow of these impossible structures have woven rich tapestries of folklore to explain their origins, filling the vast silence left by history. Folklorist Dr. Aisha Menz explains that these legends are not mere fantasy, they are a form of cultural memory. When a society cannot comprehend the scale of a human achievement, the story leaps into the realm of gods and giants, preserving the awe and wonder these sites inspired for thousands of years. In the fantastical landscape of Cappadocia, the towering rock spires known as fairy chimneys are said to be the homes of mythical beings, their whimsical shapes too strange to be the work of nature alone. Similarly, many Chinese cave temples are linked to ancient dragon lore, with stories claiming the vast caverns were hollowed out by the coils and claws of these great serpents. These narratives served a profound purpose. They embedded the monuments within a sacred cosmology, transforming a physical place into a cornerstone of cultural identity, a location where the legendary past touched the present. This oral tradition was the original guidebook, with elders passing the stories down through generations, ensuring that even as the original builders faded from memory, the significance of their work would not. Today, these very myths often form the heart of local tourism, drawing visitors who are captivated by the blend of history and imagination. This enduring power of legend raises a compelling question about our own nature. Why do we so readily reach for mythology to explain great achievements? It seems to be a fundamental human impulse to clothe the extraordinary in the supernatural, a way to give meaning to the near magical. Yet this layer of enchanting mystery is now being gently peeled back, not to dismiss the old stories, but to listen to what the stone itself has been trying to tell us all along. A laser scan sweeps through a dark chamber, its invisible beam painting a digital ghost of the mountain's hidden heart. In that precise light, a wall that appeared solid for centuries suddenly reveals the faint outline of a sealed doorway, a passage forgotten for 1,000 years. This is the quiet revolution of modern archaeology, where technology is not just assisting discovery, but fundamentally rewriting the history we thought we knew. At Turkey's vast underground city of Derinkuyu, ground-penetrating radar has recently mapped a labyrinth of new tunnels and ventilation shafts, suggesting the complex could have sheltered not thousands, but tens of thousands of people, a scale of urban planning we never before attributed to that era. Similarly, in the Mogao caves of China, advanced spectral imaging has resurrected paintings that had faded into nothingness, pulling vibrant scenes of daily life and spiritual devotion back from the brink of oblivion. As archaeologist Dr. Leo Grant explains, each discovery peels back another layer, showing these sites were even more extensive and complex than we thought. We are witnessing a golden age of rediscovery. Three-dimensional modeling software allows researchers to digitally reconstruct facades and statues that have been worn smooth by wind and rain, letting us see an intricate carving with the clarity it had on the day it was finished. In laboratories, isotopic analysis of minuscule plaster samples can now pinpoint the exact source of materials, tracing a specific pigment to a mine hundreds of miles away. This tiny clue opens a vast window, providing concrete evidence of ancient trade routes and the astonishing distances over which ideas and artistic styles traveled. These technological insights are completely reshaping our understanding of their world. We now see that construction techniques were shared and adapted across vast geographical and cultural divides. A carving method found in a temple in India might appear generations later in a tomb in Ethiopia, suggesting a slow, deliberate exchange of knowledge along merchant routes, a hidden network of engineering expertise transmitted across continents. What other surprises lie buried in the stone, waiting for the right tool to give them a voice? These ongoing revelations ensure that the story of these mountain sanctuaries is never truly finished. They keep the narrative alive and evolving, compelling us to look past the sheer physicality of these places and begin to decode the deeper symbolic meanings the builders so carefully embedded in every arch and corridor. A lotus flower emerging from a carved pillar is never just a plant. It is a deliberate statement of purity, rising untainted from the mud of the material world to achieve spiritual enlightenment. This is the hidden language of stone, a symbolic code where every form, from the grandest facade to the smallest frieze, carries layers of meaning about cosmology, power, and the deepest human beliefs. Art historian Dr. Sophia Rossi describes these forms as visual prayers, intended to guide the spiritual journey of the individual and encode the worldview of the entire culture. In the Buddhist caves of Ajanta and Ellora, the entire floor plan of a Chaitya hall can be a physical mandala, a geometric representation of the universe used as a map for meditation. Walking through its precisely aligned pillars is meant to be a symbolic journey from the outer, chaotic world toward the serene, enlightened center. Similarly, in Mesoamerican sites like Melanalco, carved directly into a mountainside, the eagle warrior motifs are not simple decoration. They symbolize a direct connection to the sun and the heavens, marking the space as one reserved for elite warriors and rituals of divine authority. Common symbols form a shared vocabulary across continents. The serpent, often depicted guarding entrances or winding around pillars, almost universally represents protection and rebirth, its cyclical shedding of skin mirroring themes of renewal. A stepped pattern, like those found in Mesopotamian ziggurats recreated in rock-cut form, signifies a spiritual ascent, a staircase leading from the human realm toward the divine. Even the spatial arrangement of chambers speaks this symbolic language. A long, dark corridor leading to a sudden, brightly lit inner sanctuary recreates the journey from ignorance to enlightenment. The placement of the main shrine at the farthest, most inaccessible point reinforces social hierarchies, controlling who could approach the most sacred space and when. What can this global tapestry of symbols teach us? It reveals that despite vast cultural differences, human societies have always grappled with the same core concerns: purity and corruption, our place in the cosmos, and the desire for protection and transcendence. They expressed these universal questions not in words that could fade, but in stone meant to last forever. This profound, intentional design extended beyond spiritual meaning into a remarkably pragmatic relationship with the natural world, demonstrating an early form of environmental engineering we are only now fully appreciating. The mountain itself was a perfect climate battery. Its sheer mass of stone absorbed the day's heat, releasing it slowly through the cool night, while in winter, that same thermal mass retained any warmth generated within. This created a stable, comfortable environment deep inside the complex, a natural form of air conditioning that required no energy beyond the initial work of carving. Environmental archaeologist Dr. Samir Hassan explains that these complexes are early examples of sustainable architecture, leveraging geothermal mass and local resources. This principle of working with the environment extended far beyond temperature control. The mountain's bulk offered a formidable shield against howling winds, torrential rains, and the scorching sun, creating a refuge from extreme weather. Its very form provided natural camouflage, making entire cities like Petra virtually invisible from a distance until you were right at their gate. From a purely logistical standpoint, building into a mountain was remarkably efficient. Since the primary building material was the mountain itself, there was no need to quarry stone from miles away and transport it, a process that consumed immense amounts of labor and resources in conventional construction. This was architecture with a dramatically reduced footprint. The structural advantages were equally profound. A mountain-carved temple moves as one with the earth during a seismic event. Unlike a freestanding structure that can shake apart, the monolithic nature of these complexes allows them to sway in unison with the land, offering incredible stability against earthquakes. Water, the lifeblood of any community, was also ingeniously managed. Builders learned to channel natural seepage from the rock into carved cisterns, creating a reliable, filtered water supply. The ancient city of Matera in Italy stands as a powerful testament to this long-term habitability. Its residents have lived in and continuously adapted these cave dwellings for millennia, a direct result of the comfort, security, and sustainability offered by the natural landscape. So what can these ancient strategies teach modern green building? They remind us that the most effective solutions often involve listening to and collaborating with the local environment, using passive systems for climate control and minimizing both resource extraction and waste. This sophisticated understanding of place, however, did not develop in isolation. The brilliant ideas perfected in one region often traveled, carried along the bustling trade routes that connected distant cultures, allowing these mountain carving techniques to be shared, adapted, and refined across the ancient world. A master artisan in India might never have seen the Mediterranean Sea, yet the graceful scroll of an acanthus leaf could appear beneath his chisel, a silent testament to the vast, invisible highways of exchange that connected the ancient world. These mountain-carved complexes were not isolated marvels. They were vibrant, connected nodes in a global network where ideas flowed as freely as spices, silk, and precious stones. The very stone tells a story of cross-continental conversation. Look at the facades of some early Indian cave temples, like those at Kala. The elegant pillars and arched entrances bear a striking resemblance to Greek and Roman architecture, a Hellenistic influence likely carried by traders and travelers along the bustling routes from the west. Further north, in the caves of Bamiyan, Afghanistan, one could find a stunning fusion of Persian, Indian, and even Chinese artistic styles, a cultural melting pot frozen in stone. Historian Dr. Mei Lin emphasizes that these complexes were nodes in a global network where artisans shared techniques and motifs. This was not mere copying. It was a creative adaptation where a foreign design would be reinterpreted through a local spiritual lens, creating something entirely new and powerful. This cross-pollination extended to the very materials used. The vibrant lapis lazuli blue in a Central Asian mural might have been mined in Afghanistan, traded across deserts, and finally applied by an artist who had never seen its source. The movement of skilled workers was just as crucial as the trade in goods. A master sculptor from Persia, traveling with a merchant caravan, might spend a season at a worksite in India, teaching new methods for undercutting stone to create deeper shadows while simultaneously learning local iconography. The result is a hybrid style brilliantly illustrated in the caves of Southeast Asia. In Indonesia, the Grand Temple of Borobudur, while built rather than carved, reflects this same principle. Its galleries filled with narratives that blend Buddhist teachings with indigenous ancestral beliefs. Even within the rock-cut caves of the region, we see this beautiful synthesis where Hindu deities and Buddhist bodhisattvas sometimes share the same sacred space, their stories intertwining on the walls. Pilgrimage routes became superhighways for these design ideas. A devotee traveling to a holy site in Ethiopia would carry back not just spiritual enlightenment, but also a memory of the distinctive cross-shaped floor plan of a Lalibela church, a concept that might later inspire a local adaptation hundreds of miles away. Yet for all this global exchange, local genius always had the final say. The core techniques were adapted to what the land provided. In a region with soft volcanic tuff like Cappadocia, artisans carved intricate, delicate details. In an area of hard, unforgiving granite like at Mamallapuram in India, the style became more monumental, the forms bolder, reflecting a dialogue with a more resistant material. What does this rich interchange reveal about our shared history? It dismantles the idea of ancient societies as isolated islands. It shows us a world surprisingly interconnected, where a shared human drive for meaning and beauty transcended language and distance, creating a common architectural language written deep within the mountains of the earth. This global conversation of faith and form naturally draws our focus inward, to the very heart of these spaces where the most profound human rituals unfolded. The air inside these carved halls was thick with the scent of sandalwood and the low hum of ancient chants. These were not silent monuments, but living, breathing centers of devotion, their very design choreographed to elevate the rituals held within. Every feature, from the grandest altar to the smallest niche, was purpose-built to facilitate a journey from the mundane world to a state of spiritual transcendence. Theologian Dr. Priya Singh observes that the architecture itself facilitated transcendence, with darkness and light playing symbolic roles. A long, dimly lit entrance corridor would deliberately build anticipation, forcing the mind to shed the distractions of the outside world before the pilgrim emerged into the sudden, breathtaking splendor of the main hall, often illuminated by a single shaft of sunlight at a precise time of day. At the heart of this experience were the ceremonies themselves. In a temple like Kailasa, elaborate processions would wind through the carved pathways, with priests and devotees carrying flower offerings and lamps into the deepest sanctums, spaces aligned with specific deities to harness their divine presence. The sound of bells and rhythmic chanting would be amplified by the carefully engineered acoustics, transforming human voices into a resonant, enveloping force that felt both immense and intimate. Water was a constant element of purification. Intricate channels carved directly into the floor would guide sacred water for ritual baths or collect rainwater for blessings, integrating the very essence of life into the ceremonial practice. These rituals were the glue that bound the community together across generations. An initiation ceremony for a young member, conducted in the same chamber where their ancestors had stood, created an unbreakable link to the past. Grand festivals marking the harvest or a solstice would draw people from surrounding villages, reinforcing shared identity and cultural values through collective celebration. Even funerary practices focused on remembrance and honor were conducted in specially designated areas, ensuring the departed remained a part of the community's enduring story. How did the design enhance the participants' emotional and spiritual states? The strategic use of space directed movement and focus, while the interplay of shadow and light guided the eye and the mind toward contemplation. The cool, solid embrace of the stone offered a sense of permanence and safety, allowing individuals to feel connected to something far greater than themselves. This profound orchestration of human experience within the mountain reveals a layer of intention that goes beyond the spiritual and into the scientific, where the architecture itself was tuned to the movements of the heavens. A narrow slit in a solid rock wall does not look like a sophisticated instrument, yet on the morning of a solstice, that unassuming crack transforms. It captures the first sliver of sunlight, projecting a brilliant blade that travels across the dark interior to strike a single carved marker. This was not decoration. It was a precise, permanent calendar etched in stone, an astronomical instrument built directly into the mountain itself. From horizon markers that tracked the sun's yearly journey to deep light wells that functioned like a camera obscura, these sites were equipped with a range of devices for watching the sky. Astronomer Dr. Carlos Mendez explains that these features turned architecture into observatories, blending daily life with cosmic cycles. One of the most famous examples is the sun dagger phenomenon at Fajada Butte in New Mexico, where spiral petroglyphs are bisected by shafts of light only on the solstices and equinoxes. But similar principles were at work in rock-cut complexes across the world. A simple carved circle on a floor, when paired with a small hole in the ceiling, could act as a primitive sextant, mapping the sun's changing altitude throughout the year. The knowledge required to calibrate and interpret these tools was immense. It demanded generations of patient observation to understand the subtle shifts in a star's position or the precise point on the horizon where the sun would rise on the shortest day of the year. Maintaining the accuracy of these stone instruments over centuries was a community effort. It required keeping sight lines clear of vegetation and ensuring that the carved channels and markers were not worn away by the elements. This deep integration of astronomy into architecture speaks volumes about these cultures' priorities. Their world was not divided into separate boxes for science, spirituality, and survival. It was a unified whole. Knowing when to plant crops was as sacred as knowing when to honor the gods, because both actions were tied to the same cosmic order. This practical ingenuity, this ability to harness the mountain to read the heavens, was matched by an equally sophisticated mastery of a more earthly element, the essential management of water that made life possible in these stone sanctuaries. The sound of water flowing through stone was the sound of life itself. Intricate channels carved directly into the rock face acted as a permanent, gravity-powered plumbing system, capturing every precious drop of rain and guiding it to vast underground cisterns. This was not a luxury, it was the very foundation that allowed a desert city like Petra to flourish. Hydraulic engineer Dr. Anika Patel notes that these builders mastered hydrology without modern tools, ensuring long-term survival in arid environments. They thought in watersheds, designing networks of channels and dams on cliff tops to capture runoff from entire plateaus. The water was then directed through a gentle, consistent slope, relying solely on gravity to carry it to its destination. Before entering a storage cistern, it might pass through simple yet effective filtration systems like layers of sand and gravel that cleaned the water of silt and debris. The placement of these cisterns was a stroke of genius in itself. Carved deep into the cool rock and often covered, they were positioned to minimize evaporation under the scorching sun, preserving the water supply through long, dry seasons. This collected resource served every facet of life. It provided drinking water for the community, sustained small-scale agriculture in terraced gardens, and was essential for the ritual purification ceremonies that were central to spiritual practice. Beyond sustenance, this careful management protected the carvings themselves. By controlling the flow of rainwater, they prevented it from seeping into cracks and eroding delicate sculptures, or from pooling and freezing, which could fracture the stone over centuries. How can these ancient solutions inform today's water scarcity challenges? They demonstrate a principle of working with the natural landscape to harvest what is freely given, using passive, energy-free systems that are both elegant and incredibly durable. This hydraulic wisdom underscores a holistic approach to survival, where securing the most vital resource was seamlessly integrated into the architecture. This same meticulous planning for long-term stability was applied to another critical need, defense, transforming these mountain sanctuaries into virtually impregnable strongholds. A narrow entrance, barely wide enough for one person to squeeze through, could determine the fate of an entire community. These mountain sanctuaries were not just spiritual centers, they were formidable strongholds, their defensive genius woven into the very fabric of their design. The inhabitants transformed the mountain's natural advantages into an elaborate system of protection, leveraging the landscape to create fortifications that were both subtle and devastatingly effective. At the cave city of Uplistsik in Georgia, the approach to the complex is a masterclass in controlled access. A single, easily defended path winds up the cliff, forcing any potential invader into a vulnerable bottleneck exposed to defenders above. Military historian Dr. James O'Donnell explains that these designs leverage topography for protection, making conquest extremely difficult. It was a form of architectural judo, using the attacker's own force and numbers against them. The primary gate was often just the beginning of the danger. Inside, a maze of corridors intentionally disoriented outsiders. Passageways would twist and turn, leading to dead ends or sudden drop-offs, while hidden doors, carved to look like solid rock walls, would allow defenders to appear and disappear at will, ambushing intruders from behind. Some sites employed massive, circular stone doors that could be rolled across key passages, sealing them as effectively as any iron portcullis. These monolithic barriers were incredibly difficult to breach, requiring immense time and effort while defenders rained down projectiles from slits in the ceilings. Surveillance was another key element. High, concealed lookouts provided a commanding view of the surrounding valleys, giving ample warning of any approaching threat. Communication between these posts was likely achieved through a system of signals, perhaps using reflected light or specific sounds that echoed through the stone halls. For a community under siege, survival depended on self-sufficiency. Deep within the mountain, vast chambers were carved out to store grain, dried goods, and most crucially, water. Elaborate cisterns ensured a lasting supply, allowing the inhabitants to wait out a prolonged blockade while their attackers struggled for provisions in the open. What does this intense focus on defense reveal about these societies? It speaks to a world of shifting powers and very real dangers, where a community's greatest sanctuary also had to be its ultimate refuge. The constant threat of conflict spurred innovations in security that would later influence the design of medieval castles, from the use of murder holes to the strategic value of elevated, inaccessible locations. This practical, hard-won intelligence underscores the immense collaboration required for such projects, a collective effort that relied on the often overlooked contributions of an entire society, including the crucial roles played by women and a diverse range of laborers. The fingerprints left on a stone mortar used for grinding pigments are often small, speaking of hands that history rarely names. While grand inscriptions celebrate the kings and master architects, the true engine of these mountain carving projects was a vast communal effort that spanned the entire society. Women, children, and laborers from many backgrounds formed the essential, living foundation that made these stone dreams possible. Social historian Dr. Fatima Al-Jamil explains that labor was communal, with contributions across gender and age lines, though not always documented in official records. Evidence for this inclusive workforce is etched into the archaeological record itself. The discovery of tools with handles shaped for smaller grips suggests that tasks were shared, with different individuals specializing in work that matched their strength and skill. In some burial sites, the remains of women have been found alongside fine carving tools and pigment jars, indicating they were respected artisans, likely responsible for the intricate paintings and delicate reliefs that adorn the temple walls. Beyond the artistic contributions, their roles were foundational to daily survival. Imagine the constant, vital work of preparing food for thousands of workers, managing water supplies, weaving textiles, and sustaining the temporary settlements that clung to the mountainside. This was the invisible economy of care and logistics that powered the visible marvel of engineering. How does acknowledging these countless contributors change the story of these wonders? It transforms the narrative from a tale of solitary genius to one of profound collective achievement. It reveals ancient societies as complex organisms where every member, regardless of their recorded status, played a part in a legacy meant to transcend generations. This broader, more inclusive understanding of the workforce naturally leads us to wonder what powerful ideas could unite such diverse people for a common goal that stretched across centuries. Stone was the perfect medium for a philosophy of eternity, for cultures that viewed the cosmos in vast, cyclical terms. Building with perishable materials made little sense. Their temples needed to be as enduring as the truths they represented, carved from the very bones of the world to withstand the turning of ages. The Hindu concept of pralaya, a great cosmic dissolution that periodically ends one world cycle and begins the next, demanded architecture that could symbolically survive such an event. This belief in cyclical time is physically manifested in the Kailasa temple, a structure designed to be an eternal, indestructible replica of the sacred mountain abode of Shiva, impervious to the decay that claims all mortal things. Philosopher Dr. Rajiv Mehta observes that these structures materialize abstract concepts, making philosophy tangible through engineering. This was not merely construction, it was a form of spiritual argument made solid, a declaration that some truths are absolute and unchanging. In stark contrast, Buddhist rock-cut architecture explores a profound paradox. The tradition deeply emphasizes the impermanent nature of all existence, yet its artisans created breathtakingly permanent caves to house this very teaching. The goal was to craft an environment that facilitated the inner journey toward realizing this impermanence, a stable, quiet space where the mind could settle and observe the transient flow of thought and sensation. Here, the use of natural light was not just practical, it was deeply symbolic. A single shaft of sunlight piercing the darkness of a meditation hall became a direct metaphor for the dawn of enlightenment, a sudden clarity dispelling the shadows of ignorance. These philosophical underpinnings directly shaped the design. In the Jain sites of India, the ultimate spiritual goal is moksha, a state of liberation achieved through intense asceticism and non-violence. Their temples reflect this through an aesthetic of serene simplicity and exquisite detail, encouraging a quiet introspection free from sensory overload. Meanwhile, in the Taoist caves of China, the driving philosophy was harmony with nature, the Tao or the Way. Their designs often incorporate natural rock formations rather than completely reshaping them, creating a sense that the sacred space was discovered within the mountain, not imposed upon it. How did stone become the preferred medium for such profound spiritual expression? It offered a sense of permanence for concepts believed to be timeless, and its very substance provided a direct physical connection to the earth, grounding lofty ideas in tangible reality. This global tapestry of worldviews reveals a universal human quest to anchor our most profound questions about existence in something that feels as solid and enduring as a mountain. These philosophical seeds, once planted in stone, would not remain isolated. They began to travel, carried by pilgrims and traders, to influence artistic and spiritual thought far beyond their place of origin. The timeless principles of carving space from the earth resonate powerfully in our modern cityscapes, a quiet legacy etched in concrete and glass. Look at a brutalist building, its massive sculptural form rising with the raw, monolithic presence of a cliff face. This is not a mere aesthetic choice, it is a philosophical descendant of those ancient complexes, embracing the power of in situ material and the expressive force of sheer mass. The iconic works of architects like Frank Lloyd Wright championed this very idea of organic architecture, where a building should appear to grow naturally from its site, not be placed upon it. His Fallingwater House, cantilevering over a waterfall, achieves a harmony with the landscape that echoes the seamless integration of a mountain temple. Architect Dr. Chloe Bennett explains that these ancient sites remind us that the most resilient designs work with, not against, the environment. This wisdom is now being rediscovered in the push for sustainable design. Contemporary earth-sheltered homes and subterranean museums leverage the ground's natural thermal mass for temperature regulation, drastically reducing energy consumption in the same way a cave complex maintains a stable climate. The elegant facades of the Art Deco period, with their stepped forms and streamlined geometric patterns, often drew direct inspiration from the monumental, rock-cut tombs of antiquity, translating ancient grandeur into a modern architectural language. Even the strategic use of light in today's green buildings, where carefully placed skylights and light wells illuminate deep interiors, is a direct echo of the ancient mastery of reflecting and channeling sunlight into windowless chambers. What can modern engineers learn from these time-tested approaches? They offer a masterclass in passive systems and material efficiency, demonstrating that true innovation often lies in revisiting the deep, intuitive collaboration between human habitat and the living planet. This profound and enduring influence confirms that the builders of these mountain complexes were not just artisans, they were visionaries whose solutions are still speaking to us. Their work feels complete, yet it leaves behind a trail of tantalizing questions that continue to challenge everything we think we know about their capabilities. A mirror-like polish on solid granite defies simple explanation. We can replicate the finish with modern machinery, but how it was achieved centuries ago with basic tools remains one of archaeology's most stubborn puzzles. The surfaces are so flawlessly smooth that they feel like glass, a perfection that seems to contradict the percussive, chaotic nature of hammer and chisel work. This is just one of the many enigmas that researchers confront. At the Mogao Caves, the story of their vibrant artistry is shadowed by the mystery of their sudden abandonment. Why would a thriving center of pilgrimage and learning be sealed and left behind? Its priceless libraries hidden away from the world, the answers are not written in any surviving record. Archaeologist Dr. Hugo Silva admits that each answer unveils new questions, keeping the mystery alive. We are left to piece together clues from the silent stone itself. The identity of the master artisans is another profound gap. We see their work, a legacy spanning generations, but we rarely know their names. Were they revered members of their society, or anonymous laborers whose genius was absorbed into the collective achievement? The sources of their advanced geometrical knowledge are equally elusive. How were these complex ratios and celestial alignments calculated and transmitted across decades of construction without detailed blueprints? Some theories even explore the fringe of our understanding, examining myths of acoustic levitation not as literal truth, but as metaphorical echoes of a sophisticated sound technology we have yet to fully comprehend. Could specific resonant frequencies have been used to soften stone or to facilitate the movement of massive blocks? While these ideas remain speculative, they challenge our assumptions about the limits of ancient innovation. Today, interdisciplinary teams are tackling these puzzles with new tools. Geologists analyze stone samples to trace quarry sources, while physicists model acoustic properties to test theories about sound amplification. Why do these persistent mysteries captivate us so deeply? They are reminders that the past is not a solved equation but a living conversation. The silent chambers and polished walls ask us to reconsider not just how these wonders were built, but to question the very boundaries of human potential. These stone dreams are a testament to a profound truth about human ingenuity. Our greatest innovations often emerge not from limitless resources, but from the very constraints that force us to think differently. The builders of these complexes did not possess advanced machinery, yet they achieved feats that still leave us in awe. Their story is a powerful lesson in the nature of progress itself. Innovation theorist Dr. Ingrid Volkova notes that they prove engineering is not just about tools, but about imagination and collective will. They show us that a grand vision, shared across generations, can overcome seemingly impossible material limitations. This was not innovation for its own sake. It was a deeply purposeful application of knowledge driven by spiritual belief, community need, and a desire for permanence. The key themes they embody are as relevant today as they were millennia ago. We see the power of adaptive reuse, where the mountain itself was repurposed into a sanctuary or a city. We witness the ultimate example of long-term planning, where a project's completion was a gift to future descendants, and we observe an inherently interdisciplinary approach, where astronomy informed architecture, hydrology supported art, and geometry guided spirituality. These ancient principles are finding new life in our most forward-thinking endeavors. Engineers designing habitats for the Moon or Mars look to these examples of creating stable, self-sufficient environments in hostile, resource-scarce landscapes. The passive climate control of a rock-cut complex offers brilliant inspiration for sustainable architecture here on Earth, reducing our reliance on energy-intensive systems. The seismic resilience of these monolithic structures informs how we design buildings to withstand earthquakes and other natural disasters. How can we apply this ancient wisdom to our contemporary global challenges? It teaches us to value durability over disposability, to think in cycles that span generations rather than quarterly reports, and to seek solutions that work in harmony with our environment instead of dominating it. This holistic perspective reminds us that the most enduring human achievements are born from a fusion of visionary imagination and unwavering communal effort, a partnership between the mind that dreams and the hands that build, all united by a shared purpose greater than any single lifetime. The quiet endurance of these stone wonders offers us a final, powerful lesson. They are not relics of a forgotten age, but permanent echoes of human creativity and resilience, challenging everything we assume about the capabilities of the past. We have journeyed from the sun-baked facades of Petra to the subterranean churches of Lalibela, uncovering the invisible blueprints and ingenious tools that shaped these mountains. We have listened to the stories told by their walls and marveled at their seamless fusion of art, science, and spirit. The legacy they leave is one of profound harmony, a testament to what humanity can achieve when we choose to collaborate with the natural world rather than dominate it. Let the patience and vision of these ancient masters inspire you to see the world with fresh eyes. Notice the enduring beauty in structures that work with the landscape, and consider the lasting impact of projects built for generations we will never meet. I would love to hear which of these incredible complexes captured your imagination the most. Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey through stone and time, subscribe for more explorations into history's hidden wonders. Thank you for joining this voyage. May it ignite a lasting curiosity for the untold stories that surround us, written not on paper, but in the very bones